Tensions between countries such as the US and Russia, formerly the Soviet Union, have remained from decades ago as the result of the Cold War. Due to the conflicting values and beliefs between the different government and economic systems, tensions between the US's capitalist system and the Soviet Union's communist system have grown as more countries have fallen to the Soviet Union's communist regime against the US's wishes, and vice versa.
The United States has always been based off of freedom, opportunity, and democracy. Additionally, our society is individualistic rather than group-oriented.
In true communism, everyone would get the same opportunities, and the benefit would be for the group rather than the individual. However, when communism was actually put into place in China, it became very corrupt.
Back in Cultural Revolution, people's life are very, very different than here, which means no freedom of speech. That's probably the most different thing, right? You cannot criticize the government. You cannot say anything bad about the government. Any official control everything. So you probably you saw there's a book called Mao's book. Like it's people in China at that time treat it as like a Bible because whatever that it's in there, everybody follows, right? So think about you living in a country where because it's communism and there's no incentive for people to work hard because the way that the government treats everybody is everybody have the same salary. So if you have a teacher, everybody's the same. No matter what teacher you are, everybody's the same, right? If you're a factory worker, pretty much everybody's the same. So there's no incentive to work harder to earn more money or so people don't work hard, so the output is not good. That's why you see other communist country people are not very, like North Korea, people die for starvation because they don't produce enough. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They concentrate more on the ideology.
From the perspective of a person living in China, changing a communist government is much more difficult to overcome under communist rule due to the lack of individuality and expression. However, the U.S. citizens remained more optimistic and confident that they could contain communism through abundant supplies, loyalty, and freedoms.
Apprehension at that time was that the communists would take South Vietnam and that the rest of the countries there, Cambodia, Thailand, would fall like dominoes. And that was the so-called domino theory. I went in the Marine Corps because I thought the best I could do under the circumstances. It was in 1962, and I could anticipate being drafted. The draft was in existence at that time. I just finished college, and I thought the Marine Corps would be the best that I could do. And if I was fortunate enough, I could even be an officer.
Many men got out of the draft by delaying their duty through going to college and eventually going to graduate, law, or medical school. Additionally, men who were injured in some way wouldn't be able to go into active combat, so people obtained doctor's notes and even purposefully injured themselves to get a medical deferment. Many men joined the Navy and the Coast Guard as well to avoid being in the ground troops.
Many U.S. citizens put their lives on hold and sacrificed their lives to help the war effort, just like Ron did in Santo Domingo.
I needed to keep the world safe for democracy, and I had all this super secret stuff. We had a chain. We had a big chain. And I ran the chain through all the stuff that we had there, and then to myself, and slept on the damn safes, watching the planes come in. Boom, boom, boom.
The United States military had a surplus of supplies, troops, and money available to them.
Material. I had field safes and books, machinery, and 2 or 3 troops. And I guess I had a couple of troops with me, and lots of material. And we were on a big airplane, and a C-130 airplane, cargo carrier.
The U.S. military had access to sophisticated technology that allowed them to detect the location of the enemy ships.
Ron was on the admiral's ship when a Soviet spy ship came within the 3-mile limit, so the admiral sent a plane after the enemy.
And then it turned, and it came screaming down, and I thought, he's going to kill Ivan, because he came right down onto Ivan, almost screaming in that jet. And just before he got to Ivan, I thought, oh my God, he was in a great cloud of black smoke, and you couldn't even see him. And then eventually the smoke cleared. And then Ivan had gotten the message from the admiral. And he turned and he went bobbing out beyond the 3-mile limit. And that was it.
Ron's admiral used strategy in order to scare the enemy without getting the United States into a larger conflict. Additionally, with freedom of speech and expression, people could collaborate with their ideas in order to come up with better ways to fight against communism.
Similar to the resources, instructions, and strategies that the U.S. military was provided with to fight against communism, the U.S. citizens also had the resources needed to voice their personal opinions in order to influence the government. In contrast, the Chinese not only had to fight against communism, but they also had to fight against their own government with very limited resources.
Different province in China, the close to the ocean, those cities like Shanghai and Guangzhou and these cities that tend to be wealthier provinces because of trade, right? TRADE, trade between, because at that back then you all use ship. So if you have a harbor, a big harbor, you get goods in and out. It's a lot easier, not like today's all by airplane. So the inner country, inner provinces are poor. People are poor, and it's hard to control people once they have money. So what Mao's ideology is that he motivates all the people who are inside country, mostly the peasants, the factory workers, less educated people. He stuff on them. So have those people who are the majority to follow him, and then he used that against all the educated.
Because the doctors and the professors were less respected in the society, they weren't able to organize a revolt. Thus, due to their lack of power, they were forced to obey all government orders. However, even though the farmers and the peasants are more respected, due to the government restrictions and their low income, no one had the resources to gain any social or political power. The youth in China were particularly affected due to the lack of quality education.
At that time, they wanted, how would I use the word, dumb everyone. So they don't want you to be smart. All they want you to do is for the government. So we don't learn anything in school. Literally, you go to school is not for learning. You go to school, it's so weird because we have political science classes, right? In the political science classes, we take turn to present why Mao is good. So we go home, our assignment is to write articles, why Mao's good and why his policy is good, and giving examples why he's good. We do that kind of thing. And you know what we do? We don't understand. I mean, when you're a 14, 15, or even 10-year-old, you don't understand. So we buy newspaper and copy them from newspaper. Everybody does it. So you stand in front of class. I still remember you read like 3-4 page paper. You just start reading and everybody just listen. I mean, it's like really you go to school.
Mao made it certain that no one would have the knowledge or resources to overthrow the government by cutting off the children's primary source of education, as well as burning books that taught other philosophies or religions. The Chinese citizens only had access to Mao's philosophy and ideology and learned everything they knew from Mao's Little Red Book. As a result, all Chinese citizens were forced to embrace whatever knowledge or instructions the government gave them because they knew no better.
It's like taking away the human rights take away human rights, take away freedom. But when you're in China, that's way of life. That's how you're taught to do. If you don't do that, they put you in jail. So you have to believe. So in a sense, it's a very, very different point of view. They would in China we were taught to protect with your life of communism, and here you use your life to protect freedom, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally different. One's protecting the government, the other one is protecting the freedom.
The Chinese government's strict restrictions oppressed the Chinese citizens and prevented them from expressing an opinion that was different from Mao's. Citizens had to protect communism with their life, and if they didn't, their lives were at risk. So, due to the fear inflicted upon the Chinese citizens by their own government, they had no way to escape it. This explains why many people immigrate from different countries to the U.S. in hopes of new opportunities.
Once you have that education, once I'm assimilated, when I was like gone to Cornell, then I feel same as everyone because I have the skill. I have the, provide the opportunity, freedom in this country. Then you can excel. So at the beginning, I would say it's the same, but once you can work hard and then you get to what you want to do, then you could do anything as long as you.
Once the immigrants are given and taught the skills they need to excel at their occupation, they generally have the same opportunities as U.S. citizens because that particular person is no longer seen as uneducated or uncivilized. As a result, the immigrants are given more social power. This social power, along with the political power given to the Americans from the U.S. citizenship, gives them the opportunities and resources to have their personal opinions heard in order to make a difference in the government's actions and laws that they pass.
Currently, only 5 communist countries remain in the world today. Many countries have changed their government to a non-communist system in recent years, such as Iran and Nepal. These countries have made progressive movements to give their citizens more freedoms, opportunities, and chances to voice their opinions. The fight for opportunity carries on from generation to generation.